Hello, and welcome to the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition Small Business Live Forum. I'm your host, David Dadekian with Eat, Drink, Rhode Island, a small business right here in Rhode Island. And we're delighted to have the Mayor of Providence, Mayor Jorge Elorza, on with us today. Make sure you have any questions for the mayor. You put them into the Facebook chat there, and we'll try to get to those at the end of the Q&A that I do with the mayor. And if you're interested in the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition, make sure to head to rismallbusiness.org to join the coalition, and I'll tell you more about the coalition at the end of the program. But let's welcome our guest today, Providence Mayor Jorge Elorza. Welcome,
Hey,
Mr.
David.
Mayor.
Hey, David. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So thank you for the invitation, and I look forward to helping to share a number of the resources and programs that we have for small businesses throughout the city. I think the best parts of these is the conversation. So I'll just keep it brief. We'll leave it there, and I look forward to hearing what's on people's minds and how we can help you and your small business.
Sounds great. Thank you. We did collect a lot of questions from our members of the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition, so I've got a list of those here. And like I just mentioned, if you are out there watching this live on Facebook and you want to ask a question as we go along with the program, please put it into the Facebook chat, and we'll get to that. But let's dive in, Mr. Mayor. Here we go. Let's start. Obviously, a lot of these questions are pandemic related, even though we're getting out of it and things are looking up. But still, people have a lot of questions about downtown, and it's just not busy enough yet. It's definitely taking a little while to get back. What are your thoughts on businesses downtown? Specifically the financial district area, but also all around the area. How do you see them getting back to work? Do you see offices leaving town? What's going on?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, as you mentioned, David, that a lot of the businesses they don't have all of their employees coming back to downtown, and so we're not having the foot traffic that we typically have during the day, and some of that foot traffic would spill over into the early evening, and then have dinner downtown. So one of the things that we've done is in City Hall, we try to lead the way, and beginning in June, we brought all of our employees back. So we're humming, once again, and everything you need to take care of, you can take care of in City Hall. And we're urging all of the employers and all of the businesses downtown to do the same. COVID-wise, we know that the vaccines are open and freely available to everyone who wants them. And, we're trying to make it as convenient as possible for people. So on the employer side, if there's anything that you need from us, any way that we can be helpful so that your employees get vaccinated and then they feel safe coming into work, please just let us know. We're happy to partner and do whatever we can for that. At the same time, I continue to encourage all of the businesses downtown that if you're vaccinated, it is safe to come back into work and to have interactions. So to the extent that you can, please have your employees come back to work so that we can help the entire community and bring that vibrancy back to downtown.
Oh, that's very true. Thank you. Are there any plans, any sort of economic development plans to bring more non-residential professional businesses? And when I say that, I mean, not that I don't love restaurants and shops. Obviously, they're hugely important, but they're not the foot traffic generators. Non-businesses like that into downtown.
There's always something going on with that. And, I think that the big part of it, while we're focused on downtown, is trying to continue to make it a destination, a place where people want to be. And so it might attract residents, it might attract visitors, but it also attracts businesses. I truly believe that culture attracts capital more than capital attracts culture. And so if you have a cultural feel that people want to be a part of, it's a magnet that draws people, especially nowadays where you can literally live anywhere and work remotely. We want to stand out as a city where people want to live. And a big plan that we have put forward and that we're moving on is a complete redesign of Kennedy Plaza. Now, right. This is a long-term plan. This is going to take a decade, and the next mayor, maybe the mayor after that, is going to add their own flavor to it. But we're going to get the ball rolling. We're going to get it started. And so, we plan to start construction by next year. And what we want to do is create a central meeting space. Instead of it simply being the main bus hub or the bus depot for the entire state, Kennedy Plaza has the potential to be that civic center, right? The central park that brings our city and our community together. And I say this as somebody who grew up in Providence. never in my life would my family or my parents say, let's just go downtown. Downtown is somewhere where you went. My parents weren't, white collar workers. They didn't work downtown. The only times we went downtown is when we had to pay a bill or do some official transaction at a government building. Otherwise, we would never come downtown. And so a lot of people see investments in downtown. Historically, they've seen them as not as investments in the residents of our city, but done sort of for a separate group. But if people have that connection directly with downtown, and Kennedy Plaza is that destination, if you have kids, if you're older, if you just want to go for a stroll, if there's a place for you in Kennedy Plaza and it's that draw, then it can completely change the way that people perceive downtown. This idea of let's just meet downtown, let's just go and spend the day at Kennedy Plaza. This is something that's very possible for us. And I think that as a city, not only will it bring people together, but it'll create the kind of place where people want to be, visitors want to come, and businesses want to locate. So that's a big part of what we're putting forward to support our business community through this reimagining and rebuilding of Kennedy Plaza.
Well, while we're on that topic, in Kennedy Plaza, what are the opportunities for small businesses to be part of that? Because, there's things like the Trinity Beer Garden, which is right there adjacent to the plaza, which I've been part of. I've done markets in the plaza there. Obviously, the skating rink is huge. How can other small businesses and new small businesses get involved in Kennedy Plaza?
Yeah, there are all kinds of opportunities here. And, it really starts off with creating a destination where people come to that creates density. And once you get that foot traffic, you get that vibrancy, then, the opportunities, they really start to come to life. So part of what we're exploring is also providing some either temporary or semi-permanent structures where we can have small vendors, small businesses, like right on the footprint of Kennedy Plaza. But again, let's remember that, sort of generally speaking, our downtown is fairly small. It's very easy to walk from one point of it to the other.
True.
And if people are coming to downtown for Kennedy Plaza, I imagine that all of the surrounding businesses are going to benefit as well. They're not only going to stay right on that footprint, but the challenge for us, and also the opportunity for us, is how do we create the destination? How do we create this place where people want to come during the day, during the weekends, during the evenings, and then create that vibrancy and foot traffic that then sort of spills over into the surrounding parts of downtown. It's an opportunity that we have in front of us. If you think about cities that you've traveled to, that you've fallen in love with, cities throughout the world, they have this, but we've never had that city center. And that's something that we want to create, and I believe everyone will benefit from it. No,
it's a very good point. A lot of what you're talking about too, not only for the residents, is tourism. And, I know there's the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Department under you at City Hall. There's Providence Tourism Council. There's the CVB as well. How are you seeing tourism factor into this and that population of people to benefit the small businesses?
Yeah. So, we've done a lot of work with the Providence Warwick Convention Center Visitors Bureau, the CVB. We've done a lot of work with them to help out the hospitality industry. As a city and as a state, we're really reliant on hospitality. And as you know, hospitality declined sharply, and it's just inching back up, but we got a long way to go, in this recovery. And so, we want to market the city. We want to provide incentives. So, for example, we're working with the CVB and with the state to offer some incentives for people who stay at our hotels, giving them some additional purchasing power that they can spend at our restaurants and at our shops throughout the city. So we're being really creative in what we do there. But we also want to make sure, as I mentioned, create this environment where people want to be and want to come. Everyone who comes to the city of Providence, when you go to a new city, you stop by the concierge at the hotel and you ask them, what do I do? And we've been working with the CVB over the past several years so that they not only have a good handle on what's happening in the immediate vicinity right downtown, but they also know what's happening in the neighborhoods. So now let's say someone wants to get some really authentic, let's say Caribbean cuisine, Mexican cuisine, South American, Indian. Now the restaurants, the hotels downtown, their concierge desks have resources that they can turn to and point them in all different directions throughout the city. So, just that close working relationship and making sure that, we see hospitality for what it is. It's an opportunity for everyone to benefit from, is great. And the more that we integrate, all of the organic, sometimes gritty, sometimes refined culture that we have throughout the city of Providence, the more it's going to be an enjoyable experience for people who visit, and the more we're going to help hospitality in general.
True. Now I realize the convention center, because there were some questions on here about the convention center and the Dunkin' Donuts Center. Those are state run, but still, it's right there in your backyard, literally, in the case of City Hall. Thoughts on conventions and big events like that coming back to the city? How do we drive that? Obviously, the CVB is the focus there, but any insights into how the future is looking?
Yeah, so from what I understand, bookings are beginning to come back, and we should be hosting some conventions by the end of the summer. So that should be starting soon. That'll be great to see, and we believe that we can safely do it. And we've learned enough about the virus, how to monitor and how to screen for it, but also the fact that we have very widely available vaccines for anyone who wants it gives me confidence that we can pull these events off very safely, even events that have a large number of people. We're going to continue to track all of the information. I know there's a lot of concern regarding the variants, but so far all of the information that has come to my desk has shown that the vaccines have been very effective, even against the more contagious variants. So long as that holds true, we should be able to, have events with large groups of people together once again, and do so safely without risking an outbreak.
Well, it's good to hear. I mean, I don't want to, we've discussed this very well in full, but I just want to, reiterate business travel is hugely important as well, especially for that, Monday to Thursday block of small business and hotels downtown. So hopefully we see some more of that coming back as well.
Right.
All right, let's jump into more of these questions here. One of the things that was discussed many times by some of our members is the American Rescue Plan monies and how a lot of it's going to the municipalities. I would hope, is there an opportunity for you some of that for Kennedy Plaza, perhaps? Do you think?
Yes, so that's something that we're looking at in order to make those investments. It's really important. We have received almost $160 million to invest in our city. Let's remember that this is a one-time infusion of funds. The money, right. Once it's spent, it's spent. And so, we have to balance very carefully how much we're spending on programs that, once the money runs out, the program ends, versus infrastructure investments. And I think that it's fair to say that more and more of these resources should go to those one-time spends, basically building really strong foundations that are going to last long into the future. So on that, there are two things that I think are particularly right. First one is infrastructure investments, and we're certainly looking at Kennedy Plaza, and there are other investments that we're looking to make. But then we also have investments that are urgent in nature, so that address lingering issues from the pandemic. So one of them is the economic recovery, for sure. Right. And others are other challenges that we have faced, issues that have spiked during the recession. But focusing on economic development, we want to make sure that many of our small businesses, they get all of those little and big supports that they need to be able to thrive. And so working with the City Council, we've identified $7 million of direct support to small businesses that we're ready to put on the streets as soon as possible. So I thank my partners on the City Council for prioritizing that, and we will soon be in a position where we can put that money to good use and put it into the hands of the businesses that need them. The other piece that we're looking at is how do we through a service standpoint just provide better support and more help for businesses during this time. So what we've learned is that this idea of expanding premises for restaurants, sort of taking it outside, has proved so popular that people want to continue it even after the pandemic is done. And so we've worked with partners in the community, namely the Steel Yard, and they've created these parklets, and we've been giving them for free to many businesses and many restaurants that want to expand onto the sidewalk. We still have many of these parklets available, so if there are any restaurants that are listening and you want to expand into the sidewalk, give us a call. Call my office at 311, and we'll get you one of these right away, and we'll work with you on how to block off the street. We have a special events, a sort of tiger team that's working in City Hall, and we can help you work through all the logistics of getting these things done. So all of those, are resources from either the first CARES Act or from the second stimulus that we've just received, that we want to put out onto the community and into the hands of entrepreneurs that will know what's best to do with them. So please stay in touch with my office and let us know how we can help.
That's great. And as you said, just entrepreneurs. I mean, it doesn't have to be a restaurant. I think there's opportunities for retail, other things to use those parklets as well. I mean, if you go to, like we mentioned earlier, any big city, outdoor use is huge, especially, in Europe and Asia, outdoor use is really big. And so we should take advantage of that as well. We shouldn't be as restrictive. I realize we're a car culture here, but, it's not hard to find parking downtown, contrary to what people sometimes complain about.
That's such a great point, David, about us being a car culture. And look at what has happened on Federal Hill since last year. We've had this conversation with the Federal Hill Merchants Association for a couple of years now, and we've suggested shutting down the street, but the concern around valet parking and people wanting to park right in front has always been difficult to overcome. But now that we had to try it because of the pandemic, folks have seen that there's an appetite. There's a lot of demand for this, and it's up to the merchants. But my sense is that the merchants have enjoyed it so much that this is going to become a permanent thing. So I've told them that we're here to support them, and we'll help them with the various logistics that are required to shut it down. And if there are any other business districts throughout the city that want to do something similar, please get in touch with my office, and we will work with you to get it done.
Yeah, I think that'd be great to see in other spots. I bet if you could throw 311 up there on the screen, easy enough to remember, but I want people to see it so they can call 311 to contact and reach out for those parklets. That's great. So getting back to those ARPA monies, the American Rescue Plan monies, you mentioned about $7 million, which is about 5 to 6% of the total dedicated to small business. I know all the small businesses out there would like to see more of that. So maybe as time goes on, we can see more of that. But I remember there was a news story or a conversation online about Providence having an oversight committee or a group of people put together to discuss those funds, those ARPA funds for small businesses. Is that something that's happening, and how can people be involved with that if it is?
Yes. So it's not an oversight committee. It's like an advisory group. They're going to make recommendations to the city on how to best make those investments. This really is a once in a lifetime, opportunity. We want to make sure that we're thinking big, and that we're taking the opportunity to allow the community to weigh in on the best uses of these resources. So the committee has been formed, and we should be announcing the names in the coming days or so. But I will tell you that one of the co-chairs of the committee is a gentleman who leads one of the commerce associations in our city. And so we wanted to make sure that small business interests and that small business voice is being heard and essential to the work of this committee. So we should be announcing those folks very soon, and they're going to have some of their meetings are going to be public. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for the public to weigh in and for the public to share their thoughts on how best to invest these dollars.
Well, if it's not too late, it would be great to get a member of the Small Business Coalition on that committee. I know we've got one of our members who owns a Providence business with us right now. Jennifer Barrio Ortiz. She owns Executive Cuts down on. Jen, I'm blanking on the name of the street there, but Executive Cuts downtown. Ben, can we bring Jen in for a second? Say hello to the mayor.
Hi guys. Hi,
Yeah,
Mayor.
I forget your address. Is it Dyke Street? No, not Dyke Street.
Peck Street.
That's
I'm on 15 Peck Street.
Peck Street. That's it. I was thinking Onlyville for a second there.
That's
You're downtown.
okay. David doesn't need my services. So he doesn't know where I'm located.
Yeah, that's just it. I've never been.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Mayor.
But yeah, if it's possible to have someone on the committee, Jen, what are your thoughts there?
I was just a little concerned with the money coming to the municipalities now. We went through a lot with the state getting the Restore RI coming out. At being a Providence business, I had actually inquired about the first time around that you guys had grants, and I didn't qualify. And I'm just concerned about small businesses qualifying this time around. There was a lot of stipulations that I felt were kind of a little unnecessary, and I just want to help make the program a little more open and have more businesses in Providence qualify, not just downtown, but all of Providence. So if any help, as part of the coalition, I would love to be a member of that and give our input. We did help with the second Restore application, so we have a good amount of experience with the coalition grant writing these grants. Is it going to be a grant program or a loan program?
So it depends. We haven't decided yet. Let me just say that it's great to see you, Jennifer. I appreciate everything that you do. In terms of what has been done before, this is the first time that the city has had federal stimulus dollars from the pandemic to use. Before this time, it was all federal dollars. It was all state dollars. There was actually, now that I think of it, we did have CDBG dollars. And we did put some of those dollars towards supports for small businesses. But if that's what you're referring to, Jennifer, then you're right. We've always had that issue that CDBG dollars, they come with so many restrictions. And we hear that feedback from a lot of different folks. Unfortunately, that's an area where we don't have much flexibility, right? The federal regs are the federal regs. However, with this new round of funding, I believe that we have more flexibility on how we can put those dollars out onto the streets. So I think that your voice and the voice of the Small Business Coalition in helping to shape these programs so that they don't come with unnecessary or onerous restrictions and regulations would be very helpful. So I would hope that you do actively participate in the conversations that the committee has. And David, this is me sort of shooting from the hip. But it might be very helpful for maybe if we can partner together in bringing the coalition together to help us help the ARPA committee, hear directly from you all on ideas that you have on how to invest these dollars. I think that'd be a great partnership and really helpful for the committee's work.
That would be great. Yeah. Jen, you have any other questions while we've got you?
I was trying to find out which businesses were able to apply for that grant program before, and we haven't been able to get any formal answers.
Okay.
Just a little transparency. Would just want to see if it was actually businesses that benefited from that program.
Yeah, we'll get you that information. I don't have it at my fingertips, but I'll make sure that you get it.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. That would be great to see. Who those microloans helped out. I know that was, I think you did it. I think Pawtucket and East Providence did it as well. I think any transparency in any of these programs. I understand sometimes, you rush these programs out in the pandemic because you want people to get the money and the funds, and it's after the fact you have to do transparency. But I think people do respect that when you can tell people the answers, even if it's after the fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we'll get that too.
All right, let's see what other questions we have here from transportation came up several times. Public transportation. I know we just discussed cars a minute ago and valet parking, things of that nature. But we focused a lot on downtown. Let's talk about it's a bigger city than just downtown. How do you see public transportation benefiting small businesses, moving people around to small businesses? What do you think can be done to improve that?
Yeah. So coming back to your point, David, we do have a very real car culture here in our state. And, it's part of what's so charming about our state that everything is so convenient. And, we expect to park right in front, to walk less than half a block and have it right there for us. But this is something that we're intentional in transitioning out of as we speak. So over the past several years, we've made significant investments in multimodal transportation. So you may have noticed that we have the scooters, the scooter program throughout the city, and we just brought back the rideshare program for the bike share program. So we have about 100 bikes out there. That's going to increase to about 400 bikes, and we should have that as more of a reliable mode of transportation throughout the city over the coming months. And what we also want to do is pair that with slow lanes or bike lanes, dedicated lanes where anyone going 20 miles per hour or less is welcome to. So a lot of people tell me that Providence is a bikeable city or a very walkable city, but they're afraid of walking or biking or riding their scooters with car traffic.
Yeah.
So how do we provide these dedicated bike lanes that are separated from the road so that they're just a lot more inviting and a lot safer for our residents? That's part of what we're investing in right now. In this coming summer, we're going to be breaking ground on some significant projects throughout the city, and we're going to and it's part of our urban trail network, so that it's just so much easier to get from one point to the next without needing to hop on a car. And if you need to hop on a bus, we have more reliable service circulating downtown and getting in and out of downtown as well. So it's all part of chipping away at it. There's no one size fits all, other than you got to approach it, you got to address it from every angle. And I believe that while Providence is late to the game, maybe 15, 20 years behind other cities, it's never late to get started. And with the investments that we're making right now, I think we're laying a really solid foundation for what our city is going to look forward into the future as we continue to design our city for people and not for cars.
I appreciate that. That is a realistic answer. It is late to the game, but you're right. It's never too late. So that's a good, honest answer there. This one's kind of a tricky one. I don't expect you to dive too deep into it in the time we have here, but there are still people that are concerned about safety, and you see some of the stories in the news about unfortunate violence, things of that nature. I mean, what is when it comes to people coming downtown and or any part of the city, really, Chalkstone Avenue, Olneyville, East Side, for to shop small businesses, to function with small businesses and interact. But sometimes people don't feel safe. What are the thoughts there? What are your responses to things like that?
Yeah, the tricky thing with crime is that perception is reality. So if people don't feel safe, then they're not actually safe. And what I try to do as a mayor and as a policymaker is follow the data, right? Make informed decisions and then tailor solutions to exactly what the challenge is. So you have to address not just the reality, but you also have to address the perception of it. So let me start off with the reality, and then I'll talk about the perception. In terms of the reality of it, crime across the board is down, and it's not just down, but it's way down. What is up, and this is extremely troubling, what is up are homicides. So I'll give you an example. So back in 2016, at this time, sort of year to date in 2016, we had about 37 shootings. Of those 37 shootings, only one of them resulted in a homicide. Fast forward to today, 2021. As of today, I believe we have either 37 or 38 shootings. So essentially the exact same number as 5 years ago. However, out of those 37 shootings, 12 of those have resulted in death.
Wow.
And so shootings are actually not up. And by historical standards, shootings are still down significantly. But the shootings that we're seeing are much more deadly. And understanding the problem at that level of detail is helpful, because then it helps you address, all right, what's a potential solution to that? And part of the challenge we have just too many guns on the streets. And guns in the hands of people that have lost hope in their future, respect for their own lives and the lives of others. And this is a dangerous mix. And so we need to continue to get guns off the streets. We need to advocate for common sense gun legislation, and we need to continue to have programming and activities so that kids don't lose hope and they see a future in their lives. So on the reality side of crime, that's how we address that. On the perception side of it, the reality is that people feel safer when there's a police officer on the corner. And about 20 years ago, the Providence Police Department, they were one of the first to go all in on community policing. And through community policing, continued under Mayor Taveras, continued under my administration. That's how we've been able to drive crime down to these record low levels that we've been seeing. However, what we've seen is that, what we've had is we've had less crime with fewer officers. And what we're hearing from folks is that people want to see officers walking the beat, popping into neighborhood businesses, building relationships with kids and with families. And that's part of what we need to do to just have more of that presence where people are going to feel safe, so they can have that perception of being safe, being safer. To that end, in the budget that I put forward, we're proposing a new police academy of 50 new officers, and that's going to help with that police presence, to also go along with new training and new emphasis on simply sensitivities to the way they approach their job and the way they build relationships, so that it doesn't have to be an antagonistic relationship between the police department and the community. In fact, I believe that we can have a model police department where officers are building really deep and positive relationships with the community, while increasing that perception of safety and also in reality making us safer.
Well, it sounds like an excellent plan. I realize there's a much larger conversation there. People's perceptions about the number of police on the streets will certainly vary from community to community. But I understand what you're getting at, and I think that drives back to what we were talking about earlier with foot traffic and people being on the streets as well. I mean, it's a perception. I never feel unsafe downtown by any means, but I know there have been evenings where it's a little quieter than I would expect, and so I'm just a little more aware. And I think those perceptions are really important. So it sounds like you're trying to address it, and I hope we see some positive outcomes from it. Thank you. I think I've run through all the questions from our members. Oh, I'm sorry. There was this one at the end here regarding programs. So I know we talked about the ARPA funds being used, and you had loans last year. Any other programs out there that you could think of that we should guide our members towards? Anything specific to disadvantaged communities? We talk a lot about businesses in Providence and talk about downtown, but I love the businesses along Broad Street or in Oneyville, where I had an office. There's a lot of great small businesses, and obviously the East Side's thriving and Hope Street's doing well, but there's other pockets of town that people don't get to much. Are there some thoughts on programs out there? Do you know anything you can list for us here, or connections at City Hall that we can tell our members to go to?
Yeah, two things come to mind. The first is the Providence Business Loan Fund. So we've put about $1.2 million into the hands of entrepreneurs in the community through that. And anyone who's interested in a low interest loan, we defer any payments on it for from 6 months to 12 months. And you're not going to find a better deal out there. So if you have any interest in that, please reach out to my office. You can just dial 311 and tell them, and they'll connect you with the right person for that. So that's the first one that comes to mind. The second one is reiterating something that I said earlier, that through the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Department, in combination with the Licensing Department and Operations, we have a working group inside of City Hall that they are there to support any businesses that have creative ideas. So if you just want to expand, reach out to us. We're here to help. If you want to have a special event, reach out to us. We'll help you work through all of the logistics, plan it out, and we're here to help. if you're an organization or if you're a larger business that is looking for support on an event that you think is going to draw tourism to the city, well, we have resources for that as well, and we have partnerships with other agencies that can provide even more resources. So I hope that the takeaway that everyone hears from this call is, if you're just interested and curious about exploring what we have, or if you have a specific idea that you want support on, just call my office, dial 311, and we will connect you with the right person in City Hall. And we have resources at our disposal that we will put to use to help you and support your business so that you can be as successful as possible.
That's great, and I know, as someone who's done events downtown and throughout the city for the last 10 years, the process has gotten better and better over the years. The online process is much smoother now, and that's something our members definitely talk about a lot. Is how state licensing and things of that nature is relatively smooth now. It's not perfect, but as anything, is getting better. But the different municipalities still have some issues with things like that, and I think Providence has used the online system pretty well. Any questions, Ben, from on the Facebook side? Anything that our members would like to ask the mayor?
Hello, Mayor. We just had some questions about accessibility for people with disabilities and wheelchair accessible in Providence in general.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I will say that we've invested significantly in sidewalk repairs, and as we've as we've decided which sidewalks to repair, we've prioritized the corners of sidewalks that don't have ADA that don't comply with ADA accessibility requirements. And so you'll notice throughout the city we have a large number of new intersections where now you have the ADA compliant corners on the sidewalks. So that's been a big priority for us. It's incredibly difficult, when you have a significant disability that limits your mobility. And I think that we just owe it to ourselves and to anyone with a disability to make sure that they can move around as freely as possible. So we've prioritized that, and I'm sure that folks are seeing that work being done throughout the city.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things, an older city, unfortunately, has to make those changes and fixes, and they can't make them fast enough, in reality speaking. But they'll be done. I think that's good to hear.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, David. I appreciate your pointing out earlier about the improvements that the city has made with online licensing and different services that we offer online. You don't necessarily think about it in this way, but it's also, it also helps to address this ADA question or accessibility question. If we can just cut out the time that you have to, jump in your car, drive, park downtown, get in and out of the building, and you can just take care of it online. It's so much more convenient, and it's helpful for everyone, whether you have a disability or not. So I appreciate you pointing that out, and that's been a big priority of my administration. Streamlining processes and using technology to just work better for all of our community. And I hope that everyone in the business community is taking advantage of them as you're interacting with my team in City Hall.
Thank you. That's all that we have today. I really appreciate you being here. Providence Mayor Jorge Elorza, thank you again for your time.
I appreciate you as well, David. Thank you.
So thanks again for joining us. Excuse me there. I just need a sip. This is the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition Small Business Live Forum. If you want to join the coalition, please go to rismallbusiness.org and join the newsletter. We have bi-weekly meetings on Monday. We had one last evening, and we'll have another in 2 weeks. So if you'd like to join that meeting, please head over to the website and sign up. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram and all the social medias, but rismallbusiness.org is the website. Thanks again for being with us, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks at noon. Take care.